Rock and roll is a kind of music with a strong beat and a lot of energy. When people hear this music, many of them want to move their bodies. Some people tap their feet. Some people clap their hands. Other people start to dance without thinking. Rock and roll is music that wakes people up and makes them feel alive. This music is usually played with guitars, drums, and sometimes a piano. The guitar can be loud and exciting. The drums give the music a strong rhythm that people can easily follow. When these sounds come together, the music becomes powerful and full of life. Rock and roll started in the United States in the early 1950s. Before that time, people listened to different styles of music. Blues was popular in many places. Gospel music was heard in churches. Country music was loved in small towns and on farms. Rock and roll was born when these kinds of music began to mix together. Many young people quickly fell in love with this new sound. It was different from the music their parents usually listened to. Rock and roll felt fresh, wild, and free. Teenagers wanted music that was full of emotion and movement, and rock and roll gave them exactly that. One of the most famous early rock and roll stars was Elvis Presley. When he sang and moved on stage, people were amazed. His voice was strong and warm, and his dance moves were new and exciting. Many fans screamed and cheered when they saw him perform. Elvis helped rock and roll become famous all around the world. Another important person in rock and roll history was Chuck Berry. He played the electric guitar in a new and powerful way. His songs often told stories about young people, cars, school, and life. These stories made his music easy to understand and fun to listen to. There was also Little Richard, a singer who brought a lot of energy to rock and roll. When he played the piano and sang, the music felt wild and joyful. His voice was loud and full of excitement. Many people say that Little Richard helped make rock and roll even more exciting. In the 1960s, rock and roll continued to grow and change. New bands and musicians began to experiment with different sounds. One famous band from the United Kingdom was the Beatles. Their music mixed rock and roll with other ideas and styles. Millions of people loved their songs, and their music became popular in many countries. Rock and roll was not only about music. It also became part of culture and lifestyle. Young people began to dress differently. They wore leather jackets, jeans, and colorful clothes. Hairstyles also changed. Some people wanted to look like their favorite singers and musicians. Dance was also a big part of rock and roll culture. When this music played on the radio or at parties, people wanted to dance together. The dancing was often fast and full of movement. People jumped, twisted, and moved their hips to the rhythm of the music. Radio helped rock and roll spread very quickly. When radio stations played new songs, millions of people could hear them at the same time. Soon rock and roll was heard in homes, cars, and cafes. Young people everywhere started to follow this music. Television also helped rock and roll become popular. When singers appeared on TV shows, people could see their style and their energy. Fans could watch their favorite stars sing and dance on stage. This made the music feel even more exciting and real. Over time, rock and roll began to change and create new styles of music. Some musicians made the music louder and stronger. Others added new instruments and ideas. From rock and roll came many new kinds of music, such as hard rock, pop rock, and even some kinds of modern pop music. Even today, people still listen to classic rock and roll songs. These songs remind listeners of a time when music was new and full of surprise. The strong rhythm and simple melodies still make people want to move. Rock and roll also helped people feel more free. Young people began to express themselves in new ways. Music became a way to show feelings, dreams, and ideas. For many fans, rock and roll was not just music. It was a symbol of freedom and youth. Today, many modern musicians still respect the early rock and roll artists. They listen to old songs and learn from the sounds of the past. Even though music continues to change, the spirit of rock and roll is still alive. When someone hears a strong guitar and a fast rhythm, they often feel the same excitement that people felt many years ago. Rock and roll still has the power to bring energy, joy, and movement into people's lives. That is why rock and roll remains one of the most famous and loved styles of music in the world. It began as a new and bold sound for young people, and it continues to inspire musicians and listeners today.